Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever stopped to wonder how a massive cargo plane, something practically the size of a flying warehouse, can just drop out of the sky like a stone without crashing? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking one of the most incredible, frankly, physics-defying maneuvers in modern aviation, the Boeing C-17 Globemaster III, and its absolutely jaw-dropping 25,000-foot tactical drop. To really wrap our heads around what this aircraft is doing, we've got to look at the numbers. And there's one number in particular that would honestly make any pilot sweat. 15,000. That's 15,000 feet per minute. When the C-17 goes into its tactical descent, it's plummeting earthward at a rate 4 to 5 times steeper and faster than your standard commercial airliner. Just imagine being on a passenger flight and suddenly dropping like a roller coaster. Believe it or not, that is just a tiny fraction of what the C-17 crew experiences during this maneuver.
We're talking about plunging from a cruising altitude of 25,000 feet straight down to the deck in just 2 minutes flat. Now, take a second to think about the sheer scale and tension of an operation like this. This isn't some sleek, lightweight fighter jet doing aerobatics, right? This is an absolute beast of an aircraft. It has a payload capacity of up to 170,900 pounds. That's literally enough to haul an entire M1 Abrams main battle tank. So the ultimate engineering mystery we're unraveling today is just that. How exactly is this monstrously heavy jet falling out of the sky at that kind of speed without stalling out, losing control, or just tearing its own wings off?
Section 1. Avoiding the danger zone.
Before we get into the heavy mechanics, we really need to understand the why. Because this maneuver isn't just some flashy airshow stunt. It's an absolute tactical necessity. When a C-17 is flying into a combat zone, dropping fast is quite literally a life-saving maneuver for the crew and the vital cargo they're carrying. Think about how the airspace breaks down. You've got your safe cruise altitude up above 25,000 feet, and then you have the lethal danger zone down below 15,000 feet. Flying low and slow makes any cargo plane a massive, easy target for man-pads, man-portable air defense systems like Stinger missiles, as well as anti-aircraft artillery. Now, these low-tier, widely proliferated weapons generally max out at around 12,000 to 15,000 feet. So by cruising high and then using this insanely rapid descent, the C-17 physically stays out of reach of these threats until the absolute very last second. It just slices right through the danger zone before enemy radar or ground operators can even get a lock on it.
But here's the thing. The danger definitely doesn't end once those wheels hit the dirt. Actually, the deadliest phase of any airlift mission isn't the descent, it's ground vulnerability. Sitting completely stationary on a runway makes a multi-million-dollar aircraft a sitting duck for enemy mortars, artillery, drones, and rocket-propelled grenades. Because of this intense threat, the C-17 has to be able to instantly offload its cargo. Sometimes there are literally marching troops or driving vehicles right off the ramp while the engines are still running and then executing an immediate departure. There is absolutely no time to hang around.
Section 2. Powering the drop.
So, how does the Globemaster actually pull off this physics-defying plunge? Let's get into the incredible mechanical heart of the aircraft that makes surviving this high-stakes drop possible. As you might guess, it all starts with raw power. The C-17 rocks 4 Pratt Whitney F117 PW100 turbofan engines. And get this, each one produces an immense 40,440 pounds of thrust. Interestingly enough, these power plants are famously derived from the engines used in the Boeing 757, which is a commercial jet known and respected for its incredible performance in hot and high-altitude conditions. These engines give the heavily loaded C-17 an unrivaled thrust-to-weight ratio that practically turns its tactical capabilities up to 11.
But wait, to drop fast, you don't actually need forward thrust, do you? You need drag. Instant, massive drag. Let's walk step by step through how they engage in-flight reverse thrust. When the pilot pulls the throttles to idle, a unique translating sleeve comes into play. First, the outer cowl of the engine physically slides backward. Second, this movement exposes a ring of cascading vanes. And third, those precisely angled vanes take 100% of the fan bypass air and direct it 45 degrees upward and forward. This effectively creates an intense wall of aerodynamic drag in midair. It acts like a giant, invisible speed brake that lets the jet plummet without stalling out the wings.
Section 3. Defying gravity with flaps.
Which brings us to a pretty logical question, right? If you've got all this massive thrust pushing the aircraft straight up and forward, how in the world does the nose of the plane go down into a steep dive without the whole thing just tumbling out of control? Well, the secret lies in a brilliant piece of engineering called externally blown flaps, or EBFs. To counter that powerful upward thrust vector from the engines, the C-17 uses these massive, double-slotted titanium flaps. They literally lower directly into the high-velocity core exhaust stream of the engines, and by doing that, they physically bend the remaining thrust vector downward. This perfectly counters the reverse thrust, allowing the pilot to push the nose down into a stable, controlled, and remarkably steep 22-degree dive. So the big takeaway here is that these externally blown flaps guarantee constant, controlled airflow over the lower surface of the wing. There's no stalling, there's no dangerous shaking from all that turbulent reverse thrust. It allows this massive jet to maintain incredibly stable, slow final approaches down to just 115 knots. And the real magic? The split second those reversers are disengaged, the wing instantly regains its maximum lift. That completely arrests the terrifying vertical descent rate right before the tires slam down onto some improvised dirt airstrip.
Section 4. Dominating the ground game.
Okay, let's move to the final phase and see how this all builds together. What actually happens when this titanium-reinforced beast finally hits a primitive dirt runway? Well, that 45-degree upward exhaust vector we just talked about during the descent, it actually works to the plane's advantage on the ground too. By blowing that exhaust upward, it applies a massive amount of downforce onto the aircraft, literally pressing the heavy C-17 landing gear deep into unpaved, slippery dirt runways. This maximizes the tire braking efficiency, allowing the jet to stop on a dime in the middle of absolute nowhere.
And the ground agility of this enormous jet? It's honestly hard to believe. Let me hit you with some of these capabilities. Powered by 4 independent 4,000 psi hydraulic systems, the C-17 can execute a rapid star turn. Basically, it can pirouette on a tiny 90-foot dirt strip. It can also use its reverse power to back itself up a 2% slope. I mean, that is completely unheard of for a jet of this size. And its heavy-duty nose gear cranks up to 63 degrees, whereas your average airliner only turns about 45 degrees. It truly handles like a much smaller, lighter plane precisely when it needs to the most.
I actually want to share a really fascinating piece of community trivia from a commenter named John, because it highlights an amazing operational byproduct of this whole design. He noted that engaging those reversers on the ground blows all that incredibly hot engine exhaust way up into the air, completely away from the ground personnel. So that 45-degree upward thrust doesn't just give the plane its steep dive capability, it crucially prevents the engines from sucking up dirt and debris from the runway, all while protecting the ground crews who are working frantically to offload the cargo. Talk about a win-win.
So we've seen how a 170,000-pound cargo jet can plummet from the sky, completely cheat physics with externally blown flaps, and then literally pirouette on a dirt strip in a combat zone. It really makes you ask, what other impossible aviation feats are flying right over our heads just waiting to be understood? The engineering behind the Boeing C-17 Globemaster III proves that sometimes falling out of the sky requires just as much genius as taking off. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it sparked your curiosity, and as always, keep looking up.